PureBase 500FX is a modification from the 500DX that's coming with 4 ARGB lightwings fans to really jazz up the gaming builds. The newer FX is the same footprint as the DX, and it includes all of the Be Quiet touches that we're used to. We're going to take a look at the case, what's included, the specs, and the build quality, then set up my Ryzen 7700X test system, and then I'll go through my overall thoughts on the case. The PureBase 500FX is a mid-sized tower. This is really an update to the already popular and well-performing PureBase 500DX. It's nice to see that Be Quiet is embracing the feedback from gaming PC fans and acting on the desire for ARGB from gamers in this case. We're getting ARGB fans as well as the PureBase front panel RGB strips going up and down the length of the case. I like this lighting effect. I think it looks good. The 500FX front panel is offering tons of mesh, so you're going to have a lot of good airflow. You have a quality top filter as well. The bottom of the case also features a large mesh opening type panel. This will allow the PSU and hard drives, if you install them, to breathe and stay cool underneath the PSU shroud. As for cooling, the 500FX is coming with 3 120mm lightwings fans. They'll be pre-installed in the front intake position, as well as one 140mm lightwings fan. This will be set up in the rear exhaust. By default, this fan arrangement will favor positive air pressure, and generally speaking, it's very likely to result in very good case airflow for most gaming setups. The lightwings fans feature the Be Quiet ARGB light rings. These provide a nice amount of overall light, and the light quality does look good. The 120mm intake fans have a maximum speed of 1700 RPM at 20.6 dBA worth of sound output, which produces about 1.6 millimeters to H2O worth of static pressure. The 140mm rear exhaust fan has a maximum speed of 1500 RPM with a maximum sound output of 23.3 dBA, producing a static pressure rating of about 1.49 millimeters to H2O. Like I said, this fan arrangement should be sufficient for most gaming rigs. In terms of fan expansion, the PureBase 500FX is coming with a fan controller that will support adding a couple of extra PWM and ARGB fan connections. In terms of storage expandability, we don't have any optical drive bays, but that's pretty normal these days. We do have support for 2 3.5-inch hard drives though underneath the PSU shroud. We also have support for 4 2.5-inch drive mounts. The fan hub that comes with the case will consume one of these 2.5-inch drive mounts, but I don't think that's really an issue. Most people are probably going to want NVMe M.2 drives installed on the motherboard anyways. I opted to show off my SATA drives by installing them in the front-facing position, but they could have just as easily been hidden behind the front tray or underneath the PSU shroud as well. The front I/O panel is a slimmed down and clean look, which I really like. You're getting one USB-C 3.1 port, one USB 3.0 Type A port, a good-sized power button with a decent feel when you click it, and individual 3.5mm mic and headset audio ports. Then of course you're getting the case's RGB selection button. In terms of the test system, I'll be building a Ryzen 7 7700X MSI RTX 3060 Ti system. I'll have 32GB of DDR5 5600 CL memory and an ASRock X670E PG Lightning motherboard. For the CPU cooler, I opted to choose the Be Quiet PureLoop 2 280mm all-in-one water cooler. I opted to install the liquid cooler at the front mount location, so I ended up moving the 2 fans from the front to the top exhaust positions. Each of the temperature tests took place over the course of an hour to get a good average. All testing was done in a 20 degrees C ambient environment. The Ryzen 7 7700X is known to run hot, so for the thermal testing, I ran the fans both at a 70% fan speed and then again at a 100% fan speed to see what a decent paced fan speed but low noise option would give me, and then all out. I'll be running Asus Realbench, A64 CPU test, and Prime 95 smallest FFT in order to really test out the 7700X and capture the RTX 3060 Ti in this benchmark. We'll start the benchmarking with Realbench by Asus. First, I opted to run the 70% fan speed test. This resulted in an average core temp of about 90 degrees Celsius across all of the cores, and during the test I noted a 5 GHz pretty much flat operating clock speed. The RTX 3060 Ti core averaged about 66.2C, and the core clock was around 1900 to 1920 MHz. The 100% fan speed test saw the Ryzen 7700X cores averaging 84.5C with an average clock speed of 5.05 to 5.1 GHz. As for the RTX 3060 Ti core temps, it averaged about 64C with an average core clock of about 1935 MHz. In the AIDA64 CPU test, the 70% fan speed test produced an average core temp of 79.1C and an average clock speed of 5.15 GHz. Switching the fans to 100% fan speed saw an average core temp of 67C with an average clock speed of 5.27 GHz. Lastly, for the Prime 95 smallest FFT testing, the 70% fan speed test saw an average core temp of 89.1C. We hit about an average of 5 GHz across the cores. In the 100% fan speed test, the average core temp was about 82.7C with an average all-core clock speed of 5.1 GHz. I initially chose the 70% because I thought that this test would represent the best compromise between total sound output and cooling potential. We can see here that upping the fan speed to 100% did help. We did reduce core temps on the CPU and the GPU, but the provided benefit wasn't really that high. In fact, I would go so far as to say if you had a setup like this, I would probably run this 24/7 at about 50 or even 60% fan speed. The PureLoop 2 280mm rad and the PureBase 500FX really complement each other when it comes to cooling down a gaming PC. I was very happy with the overall temperature testing results. I really liked the build quality in the PureBase 500FX. There were no sharp edges, everything was pretty easy in terms of building. I didn't really have to think about it, all the cable routing was in a natural spot. I didn't have issues with pretty much any part of the build. Generally speaking, the Be Quiet cases are pretty easy to work in, and they really have a certain quality level that the 500FX definitely lived up to. I really like that Be Quiet still pads those rear covers with sound dampening material. This definitely helps reduce the sound, and it gives some rigidity to that rear panel. There's definitely a feeling of quality when you're building inside of the Be Quiet cases, and I do think that the build looks pretty good when it's finished. So if you're looking to rebuild or refresh your older gaming PC with a quality airflow case with some ARGB goodness, or you're looking to build a new gaming machine, I would definitely consider the Be Quiet PureBase 500FX case, as I think it's going to bring a lot of value and quality to the table in your next gaming build. Until next time, enjoy your tech stuff.